Okay, so in bioinformatics, one of the main questions that gets asked most often is how closely related are two biological entities. And there are numerous ways of putting a value on the degree of relatedness. One such method is a very simple method, and that's the GC content. So G to C bonds in DNA result in 3 hydrogen bonds, whereas A to T bonds are only 2 hydrogen bonds. So you would think that in organisms that needed more stability in their DNA, such as potentially thermophiles, might have a higher GC content because it would result in a more stable form of DNA, or more stable DNA structure. So GC content has been used as a trait to compare different DNA sequences, whether they be at full genomic sequences or sequences just of particular genes. So what I'm going to show you today is how to quickly determine the GC content of a group of sequences using R. So what you're going to start out with is you're going to have a FASTA file that has however many sequences you want in it. In this case, I have 4 sequences in here represented by the alpha actinins. I have alpha actinin 1 through 4. And so this FASTA file, I've stored it on my computer. And all I'll need to know is where I have that FASTA file stored. So in this case, this FASTA file is stored in this folder, so I can copy this folder location, and I know that's called sequence.fasta. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into R, and I've already written the code for doing this, but I'm going to carry you through how this code works. But first, I'm just going to paste this location in here. I'm going to change the backslashes to forward slashes. And now, using that location, R will be able to find my input file. So the package that you're going to want to use in order to determine the GC content is called seq-in-r. And if you do not already have it installed, you need to go over here and go to Packages, click Install. And after a few minutes here, it'll have it pop up, and it'll allow us to search for the packages that are installed. Okay, and so right there, you want to do seq-in-r. Now, I already have it installed, but if I didn't, then I would leave seq-in-r there, click seq-in-r here, leave install dependencies checked, and I would click install. Since I already have it installed, I'm not going to do that, but if you do not have it installed, then go ahead and go through installation. Okay, but I do have to call the library. So I'm going to call the library with this call here, library seq-in-r. And then I'm going to tell R where my input file is. So that's what we're doing here. We're naming the location, input file GC, and then we're calling our GC input, and we're assigning that FASTA file to the GC input with this small bit of code right here. Okay. Now we need a place to store our output, and we're going to store it in a data frame. So we have data frame GC out, and that's just an empty data frame at this point. And then we're going to use a loop, a for loop in this case, to cycle through all of the different sequences that are in that FASTA file. So we do for k, so k is going to be our variable. It's going to change each time we go through the loop. And this is saying basically k is going to be 1 to begin with. It's going to start at 1, and it's going to go all the way until the length of the FASTA file, how many sequences are in the FASTA file. So it's going to go through this file, in this particular case, 4 times. And what we want is we want to get the sequence that corresponds to whatever iteration of the loop we're on. So the first time we're going to get the sequence for the first sequence in the file. We don't want the name at that point. We just want the sequence. So that's why we call it sequence to GC. And now then that's going to come in, and it's going to come in as a list. And we're going to want to unlist it and make it a vector. So we're going to use this unlist function right here to unlist it and get it in the format that we need it in order to determine the GC content. And then we're going to do a new variable here. GC out is going to be the GC content of this sequence. So that function, GC, is going to calculate the GC percentage in that particular sequence. So, and we also need the name. So we want our data frame to have the name of the sequence as well as the GC content. So we're going to use the getName function in order to get the name of the input, so the GC input. And we're going to add that to the data frame too. So we're going to add both the GC out and the sequence to GC, or the GC out here, and the name to the data frame. So as you can see here, the first column is going to be the name. The second column is going to be the GC content. And it's going to do that for each of the sequences in the FASTA file. And then after we've gone through each of the sequences, we have them in a data frame, we're going to rename the columns of the data frame so that we see that the first column is sequence and the second column is GC content. And then we're going to print it out just so we can take a look at it. So let's see how this works. So we've gone through that and we've calculated the GC content for each one of the sequences in the FASTA file. And now we have the names of the sequences along with the GC content. And so that's really all there is to it. I mean, this could be one sequence, it could be 1,000 sequences. It could be a short sequence, a gene sequence, or it could be an entire genome of, say, some bacteria. But in essence, that's how you calculate the GC content using R. Very simple. If you liked the video, if it helped you out, please like it in YouTube, and please subscribe to my channel. Thanks, and have a great day.